This is time to deliver, Speaker Paul D. Ryan said during an interview in his office at the Capitol on Thursday. Drago for the New York Times, Washington. The new Republican tax proposal is arguably the pinnacle of Paul D. Ryan's legislative career, the culmination of years spent in the wonky trenches of conservative think tanks and esoteric congressional budget and tax debates. It could be a legacy-defining achievement for Mr. Ryan, the self-proclaimed policy guy who only reluctantly took the helm of the House in 2015 and found himself in the most political of positions as Speaker. It could also be a colossal disaster that imperils Republican control of the House, threatens Mr. Ryan's reputation and position, and leaves his party without a noteworthy legislative achievement despite control of Congress and the White House. "I'm not going to let that happen," Mr. Ryan said in an interview on Thursday for the New York Times podcast The New Washington, dismissing the mere thought of failure. "We've got to get it done." How to listen if you don't see an audio player on this page, or if you would like to subscribe to The New Washington at no charge, follow the instructions at the end of this article. Everything is on the line for Mr. Ryan and his fellow Republicans on Capitol Hill as they embark on a push to enact the most ambitious tax overhaul in 3 decades by the end of the year. Their bill would affect virtually every taxpayer in the country, dropping the top corporate tax to 20% from 35% and delivering more modest cuts for many families through changes to the tax brackets and other measures. To offset some of the cost, it would also limit or end some popular deductions, like mortgage interest and state and local income taxes, potentially leaving some taxpayers with higher bills. Mr. Ryan, long the leading architect of politically charged fiscal policy for House Republicans, says it is the potential economic benefit of reducing corporate taxes and doubling the standard deduction for individual taxpayers that is driving them. But he acknowledges that Republicans must produce a victory for antsy constituents after Republicans failed to repeal the Affordable Care Act. "We won the election, and now we have an obligation to make good on our word and make good on our principles and make good on the things we said we would do to help people," he said, and this is time to deliver. As he spoke of the tax proposal, Mr. Ryan, the former head of both the tax writing and budget committees, seemed energized by the challenge. "But a speaker can't will a proposal into law. It takes votes." And some Republicans quickly peeled away, joining in opposition expressed by influential and often Republican-aligned trade groups such as the National Association of Home Builders and the National Association of Realtors. Those groups expressed alarm that proposals to cap the mortgage interest deduction at $500,000 and end the ability to deduct state and local income taxes could rattle the housing industry and drive up expenses for those in higher tax states. Other interest groups are expected to dig in against a plan that eliminates a wide variety of popular deductions from medical and moving expenses to the cost of having taxes done by a professional. Mr. Ryan said that the interest groups were just protecting their privileged rank in the tax hierarchy and that lawmakers would have to look beyond such narrow considerations. "Tax reform is really hard because we're taking on myriad special interest provisions and groups," said Mr. Ryan, noting that such clashes are a primary reason efforts to reconfigure the tax code have failed since 1986. The special interests that protect the current code of the status quo have successfully managed to overwhelm the general welfare of the country. Mr. Ryan will very likely have to steer his tax plan to approval with no help from Democrats, who view the Republican proposal as far too weighted toward big business and the wealthy while doing far too little for the middle class to justify adding as much as $1.5 trillion in red ink. It is yet another example of the partisan divide that has contributed to years of Washington dysfunction. Mr. Ryan believes passage of a tax plan that produces the promised economic benefits could have a much broader impact and help ease the nation's political divisiveness. "I think one of the reasons we're a polarized, high-anxiety country is because we've had pretty flat economic growth and pretty flat opportunity," he said. "Most people haven't got a pay increase. Most people, half the people in this country, live paycheck to paycheck, so there's a lot of economic anxiety. And I think just one of the key solutions is faster economic growth, more jobs." And I think the best thing we could do to deliver that is tax reform. In achieving success, Mr. Ryan will need to work hand-in-hand with President Trump, who yearns for a tax cut victory as much as Mr. Ryan does. The Speaker has had a complicated relationship with the President, a man he barely knew before the campaign, beginning with Mr. Ryan's decision at the conclusion of the primary season to temporarily withhold his support from the presumptive nominee. Now his decision to regularly back the President and not chastise him for various perceived unpresidential acts has drawn Mr. Ryan's scorn from those who think he should follow the example of his friend and former Republican House colleague, Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, and condemn the President's conduct. Mr. Ryan disagrees. "I don't see why we would want to start a circular firing squad in our party when we have an opportunity that's almost a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make a big change for people's lives," he said, breaking with Mr. Flake. "That's not what people voted us in to do, is scream and yell and call each other out and, get into these shouting matches. They elected us to fix their problems, not grouse about, personality differences." Mr. Ryan is heading into a 2018 midterm election in which Republicans are predicted to lose seats and see their majority shrink, if not disappear. The outcome of the tax fight is certain to influence events. The new proposal will undergo changes as it makes its way through Congress. If those revisions aren't enough to secure passage and win public appreciation, it may be House Republicans and the leader who are in store for big changes of their own. _how do I listen? On your iPhone or iPad app in the preloaded app called Podcasts, it has a purple icon. If you're reading this from your phone, tap this link, which will take you straight there. You can also use the magnifying glass icon to search type The New Washington. Once you're on the series page, you can tap on the episode title to play it, and tap on the subscribe button to have new episodes sent to your phone free. Or if you prefer another podcast player, you can find The New Washington there. Here's the RSS feed. On your Android phone or tablet you can listen and subscribe using the free app Radio Public, which is available worldwide. If you're reading this from your phone, tap this link to play the latest episode and learn more about the app. Or if you prefer another podcast player, you can find The New Washington there. Here's the RSS feed. From a desktop or laptop, click the play button above to start the show. Make sure to keep that window open on your browser if you're doing other things, or else the audio will stop. A version of this article appears in print on November 5, 2017, on page A20 of the New York edition, with the headline "The Policy Guy Puts It All on the Line in a Tax Fight."